Hey, beautiful people. Set apart living. Shalom. Shalom. Vinette. Greetings. Greetings. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. It is August the 9th, 2022, year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And it is day 181 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1199. Shebrew, Miss Bonita Garris. Shalom, sis. Anukia, shalom, shalom. Tiffany, hey girl, hey Levon. Blessings, blessings. Tabitha, hey girl, hey mom. Shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. We are still in the book of Leka, found in Oahspe. We're picking up on page 432. I moved my marker because I read ahead a little bit. Today, let me get my marker. I didn't read all of it, but I read ahead just a little bit. Listen. Y'all see what I'm talking about when we start reading. If y'all didn't already read, y'all know what I'm talking about. Listen, this is so good. Y'all gonna put some Carmex on my lips. All right, y'all. Look, so I was thinking, you know how I always start the day like with a little small prayer or a couple words of praise. So what I want to do, I already been doing it, but on purpose now, I'm thinking about making sure it's something different every single day. She grew up in both places. Audrey, Shalom, Ray, hey girl, hey. Listen, so you know how the false god's kingdom, right? When they was going up, what they require of their subjects to do when they crawled up to that, when they was crawling up to their kingdom, they had to speak a word of praise unto their false god all the way there and all the way back, right? I'm like, now that wasn't such a bad thing had it been directed to the creator and they got to walk upright. Because when you're walking upright, it's like, it's not something you're made to do just automatically. You laud your praises on the Father just because of how good he is and how patient he's been with you. It's like, yo, the whole time you walk, even standing at judgment before they get their sentence handed down to them, even though the judgment is a righteous judgment and it's still good for them and it ain't casting you away forever, it's still something good. But they didn't know that. They didn't know what type of judgment they was about to get. They just probably thought they was going to be cast off into oblivion, into outer darkness forever, right? Even with thinking they was about to get that type of judgment from the Father, they stood there and for probably like 20, 30 minutes continued to laud praises on him, right? So I was like, you know what, this is wonderfully amazing. So I figured every day, like on purpose, I'm like, remember how I was making a joke? I'm like, dude, you probably should have like wrote that down or something. Cause like, how you gonna remember to say all those things, but just actually sitting thinking about it in regards to my prayer and praise and worship toward the Great Spirit. It's like, that's not something that anybody would have to make me do, right? So what I decided to do, like I said, I already been doing it before we started anyway, but thinking about it on purpose now, because sometimes I may repeat my little prayer of praise. I'm going to on purpose I'm going to on purpose say a different word of praise before we start and when we end. Probably just a little one word, one sentence, right? I ain't trying to be all like, because I ain't there yet. Just one statement of praise right before we start. and right when we end. But every single time, twice a day, at least while we present, it's gonna be something different, right? So I thought of like at least 10 while I was in the shower, but I can only remember two, right? So before we start, I'm gonna have two already written out, ready to go. But depending on how I'm feeling once we start and what we read, something new might come up, right? We just gonna flow with it that way. But at least I'm gonna be prepared. But anyway, beautiful people, let's get started. And Father, you are more than enough. All right, chapter 21, page 432. Jehovah had said, all angels below the first resurrection, save infants, shall be known in heaven and on earth as Juhas, for they are such as have not capacity in knowledge or strength of individuality. So we heard this yesterday at the beginning of chapter 20. Listen, so there was, of course, the three big dogs had got delivered from the hells and they're back in their right mind and about to have their kingdoms given back to them, right? So the first verse in chapter 20, it says, during the 4th year of dawn, the voice of Jehovah came to Lecah saying, my son, thou shalt provide thyself an army sufficient, and thou shalt take away from the earth all angels below the first resurrection, save such fetals as are under the dominion of my heavenly rulers. And those fetals would probably, as still as I understand even of right now, is those infants who were born in before, whether they died while they were still in the womb or whether they died right after they were born. Those are the ones. There are certain ones if the mother or father in the book of was it is it called the book of Zarathustra? We was learning about Zarathustra. I forget which name of the book, but when we was learning about Zarathustra, when it was going through the details of it, or that could have been in the book of Divinity. Those fetals who have parents who are in line with the Great Spirit and are walking in his ways, their babies who pass will be fetal to them. If they die while they're in the womb, they'll be fetal to them for the continuation of the time they should have been in the womb. So say the mother had a miscarriage when she was 1 month pregnant, still in the first trimester. For the rest of the 8 months left, or whatever time in a pregnancy, that newborn, the newborn that's born into heaven who was miscarried, they will be fetal to their mother. If the mother is not in a good space and place, head-wise, spiritually, that child will be fetal to the father. If the father is walking in the ways of the Great Spirit, walking in light. If both the mama and daddy is off out of the paths of light, they would then look for a family member, like the closest kin who was walking in the ways of the Great Spirit, and fetal that child to them. And if the whole family is out of tune with the Great Spirit, the closest person in that region who is walking in the ways of the Most Holy, that child will be fetal to them, right? So that's when it says, that's what it means, at least, like I said, as far as I understand right now. And those would be the fetals that are under the dominion of the Creator's heavenly rulers, right? Okay, here's a Shars and Asaph's. Okay, so let's go back. Chapter 21, page 432, verse 1. Jehovah had said, all angels below the first resurrection, save infants, shall be known in heaven and on earth as Juhas, for they are such as have not capacity in knowledge or strength of individuality. Set apart living, hey girl, hey, shalom. As there are on earth paupers and vagrants and beggars and criminals who are drooks, so are there in Hada spirits that are a great trial to both mortals and angels. And they inhabit mortals and the houses that mortals dwell in. Some mortals have one or two of them, some have a score, and some have hundreds of them, or what the church would call demons, legions, whatever, right? Created Jehovah, peace and blessings. Faith is, can we please ask, should we pray? You know, I heard a couple people ask that question, not to me, but I seen a couple people I don't I don't see an issue with it because I still pray daily. I mean, all the time. I don't like get down on my knees and make like a show of it. It's you get some people call it prayer. I just call it being in constant communion with my creator because I'll be cooking and I'll be talking to him or whatever. I'll be driving, I'll be talking to him, or whoever, whatever you want to call it. I just call it being in constant communion with my creator. Should we pray? I would say yes, right? Because if I'm studying or even if I'm having issues in my home or on the business, in the business, if I run into an issue that I can't quite figure out after I've gone through all my resources, I'm gonna ask for help. Would you call that prayer? Some people would. I just be like, you know what, Father, what am I missing? That's a form of prayer. Like, or Father, help me, please. That's a form of prayer if you want to call it prayer. So I would say yes. I've seen some people say no, they throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, you don't necessarily have to move your lips either. It could be inward. I just Shebrew says, I pray up and outward, no longer on my knees, and I pray for others instead of myself. Yeah, like what Shebrew said, I do that too, or I'll be going down the street or something. Now somebody come to mind, I'll pray for them. Father, I don't even know why they just crossed my mind, but help them with whatever they need help with. I'll still do that. Like I said, it's rare that I'll go down on my knees and pray. Um, but sometimes I do find myself on my knees praying. I could be like the other day. I was Oh, well, I probably should. But don't y'all know where I live at. Anyway, I was going to my safe, and where my safe is at, I had to get down on my knees. Not that I intentionally went down on my knees to pray, but when I was looking for something, and I remember I probably put it in my safe. I went there, and I just happened to be on my knees. I'm like, oh, Father, thank you. I completely forgot that I put this in here. Thank you so much that I remembered this. Like, and I just happened to be on my knees and I was praying, thanking the Father, I mean, I think I don't know. I guess it could be a personal preference until you get to a certain point, but eventually you can cry out and say something to the Father. You may not label it prayer. You can just call it talk to the Father, whatever, you know. Tiffany said, my personal opinion, does faith not include prayer? Right. Like if you have yeah, that's good. Does faith not include prayer? If we're faithless, shouldn't it's almost, yeah, that's the good way you put that. It kind of, to me, it kind of just goes hand in hand, right? It's just, yeah, I think we should, but let's see. Set apart living. I read somewhere in Oahspe where it said, let others pray for themselves. Don't remember where. Yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody should pray for themselves. I believe that. But I also say a prayer if somebody's having a hard time or if they're in a place where they can't see. I'll pray that the Father gives them multiple moments of clarity strung together, that their eyes could be open to see what it is they're not seeing, to help them in their situation. And I mean, I pray. I do on a daily basis. I really do. I don't I don't think I don't think that I could be one that lived a life without prayer, even though I don't call myself a Christian anymore. But I think it really is personally, we can have all the book knowledge and everything, but if we don't actually, it's to me, it's like it would be like a missing link. Like all the study and everything, you have to have some way to communicate to the Father, whether you call it prayer or not, right? I mean, I still call it prayer, or just talking to the Father, Creator, whatever, the Most Holy. It's a missing link if you don't have that, right? Even also that, and I think also worship, whether you got a tune to it or not, or you're just going a cappella with no music, whether you're listening to somebody else or you humming yourself. It's something natural, organic, that was put in the side of all of us, even if you were never taught about it. you will ultimately, like, if you were in the right state of mind, you just ultimately, even if you may not, even if you don't know the name of the creator, you're you're going to give praises, honor, adoration to one who is greater than you, who created you. It's just, yeah. Yeah, but if y'all know what it is, set apart living, if y'all know where that is, share the reference point in the Oahspe where it is, and we'll go to it. um I think I heard, I don't know if he here yet, Oahspe College University. He mentioned something. I don't remember exactly what he said. Um, he mentioned something about prayer. And I don't even remember what video, but I don't even remember what he said, but he may know if he's here. But yeah, I it's just a part of our makeup. Even like I said, if you don't call it prayer, communicate what you're creating. It's a part of who we are, right? Because I mean, if you don't do it here in the flesh, what you gonna do when you're born into the spiritual realm? Like, how you gonna communicate? It's a form of communication. We just give it names and stuff, but I think it's needed. I think it's a part of the whole. It's a smaller part of the whole. Elijah, Grand Rising. Okay. Well, y'all look for that if y'all know where it is. Don't get sidetracked. If it is, I'm sure we're gonna come across it. All right, but let's go back to this. Listen, it's talking about houses and people being haunted here. Okay. Verse, I go back to 2. No, I only got the 3, so let's just go back to verse 1. Okay. Page 432, chapter 21, verse 1. Jehovah had said, all angels below the first resurrection, save infants, shall be known in heaven and on earth as Druhas, for they are such as have not capacity in knowledge or strength of individuality. As there are on earth paupers and vagrants and beggars and criminals who are droops, so are there in Hada spirits that are a great trial to both mortals and angels, and they inhabit mortals and the houses that mortals dwell in. Some mortals have one or two of them, some a score, and some have hundreds of them. Some of them continue to inhabit mortal dwellings long after mortals have abandoned them, even till they fall in ruins. And whoso cometh into such house, the Druhas come upon him to live on him and with him. That book that I told y'all about, she gives a couple different examples about this happening, houses being haunted, and why. She's noticed a couple different reasons, like if money is involved. I just give, instead of reading it, I give it to you. So there is one person who before he died, he committed a crime, right? And he stole this huge sum of money from this particular family, from a guy, but it was like family money. He stole it, but he died, and his spirit kept him grounded there until he was able to kind of make his wrong right. So what happened was, somebody that could hear him told him about what he did while he still had his, before he actually died, and he told him where the money was, and he would like for that money to be returned to its owner. It happened. They never had any more trouble from the spirit again. But what the spirit was doing, it was making a ruckus at different places until they figured out what in the world. Somebody was smart enough. Okay, why is the spirit here? There was another instance where a husband and a wife, a husband had passed away, and he had hidden. He didn't. There was some. I think it was. I want to say it was the will. There was something that was put away that the wife didn't know about, and so for days, actually, I think it was weeks, they were looking for it. And then a husband, he sargused himself. He appeared to the wife and let her know exactly where those papers were for insurance purposes. The wife went there, and the papers was right where the husband in spirit told her where it was at. There was another issue. There was a home. It was a family home, and there was something that was going on inside the home that shouldn't have been. And one of the family members that had passed, Of course, they were still present. They was grounded there because what was going on in the family, it was constant bickering. It's something that would have driven the family apart, right? So the spirit of the person who had passed, one of these family members, he was knocking chairs and stuff over, making a ruckus in the house. They didn't know what was going on until somebody finally figured out we probably need to have this house prayed out or the something. It's become a haunted house. What's going on? And so they came across somebody and they came in, and the spirit of the person who passed, sometimes they'll do seances or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, the person that they got could actually hear the family member who had passed away. And he told him, he said, he's in there knocking stuff over here trying to get their attention because they're doing all this bickering. It's going to really tear the family apart, right? And there was something that was going, they didn't really give details. There was something going on in a family and they needed to stop it. Otherwise, the family would be completely torn apart. So the person who came in to do the whole cleansing of the house let them know. And they said from that point, apparently, the family members, the person who was relaying the message from the spirit didn't have a clue. But the family members, when they said it, they knew exactly what he was talking about, and they handled it that day. And there was never the reports that there was never any other supernatural happenings, chairs flying around in the house ever from that point. There was another one where a famous piano player who wrote music, I forget the name, some famous guy back in the day, but he passed away. And there was this piece of music that was really, really expensive, but it was missing. He split his music up because he knew it was expensive. He was like one of these big time people, but a portion of the music, the bars, the lines from it, he took it, he pulled it out from the rest of the bars and the music, and he hid it. Right. And so they were looking for this, and his son inquired. He got somebody, listen, we're looking for this. If you can get it, I don't know that I would necessarily do this. If you can ask my daddy where this piece of music at, I would greatly appreciate it. Somebody came, they did. The father told. Now I don't personally know if it was, well, clearly we know that they're human spirits, but it sounds like from all of these cases so far that it's the actual, if the spirits have not ascended, that these are actual cases where they told the truth. Because in each example she used, whatever they said, if they were looking for something, it was right in the place where the spirit said that it was, right? So this particular place was hidden inside wherever the window was at. There was an apartment that was covered up by curtains where he had hidden this piece of music. So after he talked to the whole spiritual person that can talk to spirits, he went over there and found that hidden piece of music right where the spirit of his father said it was at. And they said it was old because he had actually hidden it a while, but it had been a while. So you could tell it had the paper that it was written on, it had started not to decay, but it was like molded a little bit. You can tell it had been sitting there for a while, and it may have gotten wet a little bit. But it's a whole bunch more stories in there, right? So spirits of people who've been murdered, haven't been buried properly. She went through a lot of that stuff. Like I said, let me show you the book again, just in case you didn't remember what it was. But she's a faithist. The woman who wrote this book, Susan B. Martinez, she wrote this book. This is called Field Guide to the Spiritual World: The Science of Angel Power, Discarnate Entities, and Demonic Possession, right? You will see Oahspe scriptures all through this, right? And so clearly I've been reading this, so that's why I can tell you about these little portions when we come across it in here. So that was just a little example of some of this stuff that she gives examples of, that Oahspe, like people who haven't experienced anything like supernatural, it's like, yeah, that make for a good movie, right? You should work in Hollywood, right? But those of us who have had real time, real life experiences with otherworldly entities know that this might be telling the truth, because I know what I experienced. You can't say that this is not true just because you personally haven't experienced. You have no kind of reference point to what's going on, but some of us do, right? This book is so good. Okay. So get that if y'all ain't got it. And this is the only book of hers. This is the only book of hers that is on Audible. So if you can't get the paperback, spend I think is $5, maybe $9 on Audible. And I think it's also on Kindle. I just got it on Audible so I could listen to it, right? It's really, really good. And she's a faithist. Okay. Verse 3. I'll read verse 3 again. And they inhabit mortals. Let me go back to 2. As there are on earth paupers and vagrants and beggars and criminals who are droops, so are there in Hada spirits that are a great trial to both mortals and angels, and they inhabit mortals and the houses that mortals dwell in. Some mortals have one or two of them, some a score, and some have hundreds of them. Some of them continue to inhabit mortal dwellings long after mortals have abandoned them, even till they fall in ruins. And whoso cometh into such a house, the Druhas come upon him to live on him and with him. And if a mortal have greater wisdom, listen to this, y'all. And if a mortal, excuse me, and if a mortal have greater wisdom and strength of soul than the Druhas, he ruleth over them to a good purpose, reforming them and raising them up out of darkness and helplessness. So if you move into a house or you happen to be around people who live with you who may have druids or fetals attached to them, if your spirit is stronger than they are, you would be able to raise them up, right? You would be able to raise them up and to get them free and help them get out of here, right? But if you not, if they stronger than you, and there's some instances in there where it gives those who come upon people who are not as strong, right? Listen, verse 4. And if a mortal have greater wisdom and strength of soul than the Druhas, he ruleth over them to a good purpose, reforming them and raising them up out of darkness and helplessness. But if the Druhas have greater power than the mortal, then they pull him down in darkness, making of him a man to lust after the affairs of earth. Sometimes they help a man to riches and great power. And if he have sons and daughters who are brought up in idleness and ease and luxury, then the Druhas fasten upon them, leading them in their own way of lust and debauchery or hard heartedness. Yes. No, babe. Listen to this, my flesh eating companions. I know it ain't none of y'all, but there's some people that might be ill hustling and they said nothing, told us they was here. They just come to listen. Listen. Key, hey girl, hey. She said, hey, my beloveds. Listen. Listen what they say about the flesh eater people. Listen, if you still having a little bit of trouble kicking meat, just pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Verse 6, page 432, chapter 21 in the book of Leah, son of Jehovah. Verse 6, the flesh eater is their delight. Miss Amazing Wonders. Shalom. The flesh eater is their delight, and the drunkard their great joy. The man of riches and kings and generals and fighting men and harlots and soldiers are great treasures to them. To who? To the Druhas, right? Who apparently their spirits are stronger than yours. If you are active in any of these things that it just said, and you have a Druze, we can tell who's running your life. Listen, I'll read it again. Verse 6, chapter 21, book of Leah, page 432. The flesh eater is their delight. Whose delight? The Druze, or in Christianity, the demons. The flesh eater is their delight, and the drunkard their great joy. The man of riches and kings and generals and fighting men and harlots and soldiers are great treasures to them. To who? To the Druges, to the demon spirits. Yes, Tootie. When I'm done. And all manner of intoxicating things that mortals delight. I will let you end it. Because she interrupted me like 3 times, let's just start over. Listen, Tabitha said, in order for the false gods to be delivered, they cried out. Oh, yeah, that good point. We was talking about that earlier. Good point, Tabitha. That's right. In order for the false gods to be delivered, they cried out in prayer for deliverance to Eoah, Eoih, right? It's another name. It's how you pronounce the Great Spirit, right? They cried out in prayer for deliverance, and Eoah sent in the delivering angels to rescue them. Right? Listen, remember I was talking about how we got to know before you go and try and set somebody free, you got to know they want to be delivered. Otherwise, you may make their current state worse than the last state, because them demons, if they don't come in, they don't fill themselves with the wisdom of the Great Spirit and good things, they're going to come back and re-inhabit that house or their body, their spirit, right? Put them back in the sunken place, and they're going to have full control. Ain't no telling what they're going to have your flesh body out there doing while you sitting in the back, hog tied, probably got a sock in your mouth, arms tied together, feet tied together on your stomach, watching all this stuff take place. And talk about that too, especially when we talk about Ted Bundy and some of these other people who went out there on murderous tangents, right? They said they could feel, some of them even talk about all the different voices that they hear, and they take over their body. It was like they lost all power to do anything. It said somebody else was driving their body, and they were made to sit back and watch. And some of them people, when they came to, they found themselves in jail, and some of they interviewed somebody. We can go listen. We see it here, right? You can go watch some of these interviews. All these people she lists out, go pull up these interviews when they interviewed these people. Yo, oh gosh, this is, when I say yesterday, look, when I was reading this yesterday, I was sitting at my dining room table before we took the kids to the pool. I ain't getting in the pool because I had to run out. But anyway, I was sitting there the whole time I was at the pool, trying to make sure I'm paying attention to the kids in the pool, just thinking about what I had just read in the book of Leka. And I'm like, well, shoot. I'm like, look, I started thinking, and you're going to see once we get to it, I started thinking, me and my love for food, is that me and my flesh just a little bit out of control? Or is there a hidden Druha attached to me? And I'm like, well, maybe that's why it's making it so hard. I'm supposed to be like sticking to this fast. Why I'm having such a hard time? Is it just not being disciplined enough? Or is there somebody else present with me? Y'all, when I tell y'all, I was sitting there thinking about this, and I got goosebumps. I'm like, Father, well, I don't think nothing attached to me. I just need to whip myself into shape. I was like, I need to be a little bit harder on my flesh. I'm like, shoot. I'm like, oh, I wanted to read it to my husband. He's like, look, don't read nothing to me. That's going to scare me. I'm like, bro, it ain't going to scare you, but you need to listen to this. And my husband still kind of got the mindset, because you know how you in church and like, well, if I don't hear it, I won't be held accountable for it. Au contraire, my dear, you will be held accountable for it. You gonna either know it and not do it on purpose, or you can call yourself being ignorant of it, and you think your judgment or whatever it is, or your consequence is gonna be a little bit less because you didn't know. See, but you got me trying to tell you, bruh, you might want to, hey, look, listen to this right here, what this say, right? And some people, it's like, oh, that's just the book. Really? Is it just a book? Let's test the information that we find in this book, and we'll find out if it's just a book or not, or if this might be wisdom for life, right? Listen, let me read this again, y'all. But I was literally sitting there just like, not in a daze, but literally just thinking over my life and the different times and some things where I'm not consistent in. I'm just like, and it literally, like the hair on, when I say the hair on my arm stood up, y'all, the hair on my arm stood up. Listen to this. Y'all, listen to this. I'll go back to 6. The flesh eater is their delight, and the drunkard their great joy. The man of riches and kings and generals and fighting men and harlots and soldiers are great treasures to them. And all manner of intoxicating things that mortals delight in are great feasts and rejoicings to them. The priest and the preacher who live in ease and luxury, performing showy rites and entertainments, are as great harvest for them to revel in. And all of us that come out of church know that is true. That is so true. Oh, yeah, don't it look? I like what Elijah said. That's true. All of the murderous thoughts come from the corrupted spirits. You absolutely right. Like y'all ever been sitting there? I know I ain't the only one. And just this crazy thought come out of nowhere. It's like, what in the world? And it's just like I'm like, yo. And I was like, that was not me. Ain't nothing inhabiting me but my spirit. Like I give authorization for the great spirit to, you come in, you want to use my lips, whatever. But ain't nobody else. I ain't giving nobody else that opportunity. So whatever of the spirits that I hear, they probably outside of me. But it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Because a crazy thought to pop out of nowhere. You could be cooking, driving down the road or something, and you going over the bridge or something, and the car be like, drive off the bridge. I'm like, at that time, I was like, the devil is a liar. I ain't driving off the bridge. Like all them crazy thoughts, like this. Oahspe makes some of these crazy things that happen to us that sometimes we think, I ain't gonna share that with nobody. These are spirits that are around us talking, remember? And sometimes, well, all the time, it's called by inspiration because that's how our ashars or guardian angels have to help us by inspiration only, right? We have to train ourselves to the point where we can decipher between the two. And we take the good inspiration and apply that to our life. And the ones that go off and tell you to go kill that little kitty cat and go steal that piece of candy, that is not coming from the creator's kingdom or none that belong to him, none of his, right? You got to decipher between the two, right? So like Elijah said, all the murderous thoughts and all thoughts that lead to evil, all this other stuff come from the corrupted spirits, those people who have lost their flesh and are hanging around the earth trying to uh, entice you to do things that you shouldn't. On some, look, I'm here talking about this and I heard something fall. Look, was you in that? I know everybody upstairs. Look, okay, look. Verse 7. On some occasion, the Druhas rule over their mortal, and his neighbors call him mad, and they send him to a madhouse, which is to them a city of delight. A madhouse, right? Insane asylum. Gloria, good day, sis. On some occasions, the Druhas rule over their mortal, and his neighbors call him mad, and they send him to a madhouse, which is to them a city of delight. You can see multiple disincarnate spirits hanging around insane asylums and places like that, right? When mortals engage in war, slaying one another, the Druhas have great merriment, taking part by inspiring the mortals into the conflict. The pleader, and in parentheses after pleader, the lawyer is a favorite to them. For his vocation bringeth them in the midst of contention and craft and lying. He is to them a fortunate habitation. The magician that worketh miracles and tricks is their favorite. For with him and through him they can make themselves manifest. Right? You ever seen some magicians like, ain't no trick that good in the world that you could do just with your flesh without some kind of spirit helping you. I seen them. I seen them. Bruh. I know it's more at work besides what you done learn from that little pamphlet. Mm. The magician that worketh miracles and tricks is their favorite. For with him and through him they can make themselves manifest. And when they show themselves, they are questioned as to who they are. They answer to any name that will please or flatter, even at times pretending to be gods and saviors, right? You gotta watch out for them who prophesy, saying, thus saith the Lord. Who is the Lord that's speaking? Bruh. Verse 10. So all my ladies, listen. I ain't saying none of y'all do this. I hope not. Listen. Verse 10. The tattling woman, matter of fact, the tattling woman has to be in our title today. There's so many good things to pull from here to put in our title. The tattling woman that talketh of her neighbors is a good home for the Druhas. And if the woman be given to talk evil, they are rejoiced beyond measure. The man that is a great boaster, you might as well call him the tattling male, right? Or tattling, boasting, still the same bucket. The man that is a great boaster and liar and slanderer is a choice house for them to dwell in. The cheater and defrauder, the miser and the spendthrift, the curser of Jehovah, the curser of the gods is like a citadel for them to inhabit. They go not, for the most part, away from the mortal they inhabit whilst he liveth. Nay, they have not the wisdom or strength to go more than one length away. Some of them have strength to go to a neighbor or to a neighbor's house. And if a mortal curse his neighbor to die, then such druhas can go to that neighbor, seeking out some poisonous infection and inoculate him to death, which is called casting spells. Look, I want to act like y'all key for a minute. Ooh wee. Listen, okay, verse 13. Nay, there is nothing too low or foul for them, and for the most part, they are but idiots and deranged imbeciles, answering to any name or request, like a man who is drunk, one so very drunk that he knoweth not and careth not. A large city full of crime and debauchery, and rich and fashionable people, and people of evil habits, suited them better than a country place. The first thing I think about with this, it's a lot of places, but the first thing that come to mind is hot Atlanta. And it probably only came to mind because as my husband was flipping the channels yesterday, Love and Hip Hop was up there. It is the whole Atlanta version. Stephen, peace. Listen, we're on verse 14 on page 433. A large city full of crime and debauchery, and rich and fashionable people, and people of evil habits, suited them better than a country place. Druhas dwell as numerously among the rich and fashionable as amongst the poor. They fill the bawdy house and the temples of the idolaters. A court of justice full of pleaders, lawyers, and criminals is their delightful resort, but a battle and war is a sweet amusement to them. A laboring man that is good and honest is of little value to them, save he can be a gross feeder or drinker of intoxicating wines, right? So all of those who are having issues with this particular thing, try with all that is in you to kick these habits and get free of this, right? Because you don't want to find yourself in a sunken place, right? Because you're leaving the door open to spirits who are close. Even those that love the Creator, right? You got to be careful. I'm going to read this again. A laboring man that is good and honest is of little value to them, save he be a gross feeder or drinker of intoxicating wines. A man that marrieth a rich, lazy woman receiveth his wife. I'm sorry, let me read that again. A man that marrieth a rich, lazy woman receiveth with his wife 100 druhas or more. A woman that marrieth a rich, lazy man or gambler receiveth with her husband 100 druhas or more. Druhas rule over mortals more than mortals rule over them. Highlight that. Pick your favorite highlighting color. I'm just saying, listen. Because if your spirit is not stronger than they, we might be having to come look for you. Verse 19, Druhas rule over mortals more than mortals rule over them. It was because of their abundance and their power to do evil that Jehovah commanded his chosen to marry amongst themselves. Ooh, listen. I was reading so fast yesterday, I skipped over this part. Look, that makes it, that makes sense now. I'm thinking about, you got all different types of arguments on why oh, like Hebrews should marry Hebrews and Hebrews shouldn't marry somebody of the Buddhist faith and all this other stuff. And it's even turned into color. No, marry your same color. All this. No, what he's talking about is marry those of, I mean, I guess you can't, of like faith, but even though they call them, listen, Hebrews are not necessarily Hebrews, even though they look like them and they dress like them, but in spirit, you was none of his. You was none of the great creators, right? Your spirit will tell the truth. Listen, it was because of their abundance and their power to do evil that Jehovah commanded his chosen to marry amongst themselves and to withdraw from other peoples and make themselves a separate and exclusive people that they might not be inhabited with Druhas, right? So the reason he told us to marry those who only believe in him, only worship him, it'll keep us free of all this demonic possession, right? And have you find yourself in a sunken place, calling out for help. Sis, don't do that. That ain't me talking. That's I was about to say somebody's name on YouTube. It was the first name that came to mind. Oh my God. Listen, there's a particular lady on YouTube, and I'm almost certain it's a spirit that is not from the great creator that is speaking through this woman. Y'all, listen, I almost slipped and said this woman's name out my mouth. And but listen, you got to be real careful, because a lot of times, if you're able to recognize and detect spirits, you can tell if it's the voice of the native spirit talking, or a spirit who has come in and held the native spirit hostage, and they in the background like with socks in their mouth, hog tied, screaming, don't listen to what they're saying, that is not me, right? And the body will be standing there looking like sister such and such, but giving you information that is not really coming from the native spirit. They lying to you. Boy, this stuff gets scary. This is scary. Like, this is happening real time today. Like, the more I read Oahspe, the more I can recognize things that used to baffle me and I got questions about. Oh, listen, look, whew. Auntie, hey girl, hey Shayla, hey girl, hey, great rising. All right, look, verse 19, page 433. Druhas rule over mortals more than mortals rule over them. It was because of their abundance and their power to do evil that Jehovah commanded his chosen to marry amongst themselves and to withdraw from other peoples and make themselves a separate and exclusive people that they might not be inhabited with Druhas. When a mortal dieth and he hath dominion over his Druha, not only his spirit will rise to the first resurrection, but his Druhas also, whereupon they are all delivered into the light. But that only happens for those whose natural spirit is stronger than those Druhas that are hanging around about him, right? So instead of them leading you to do what's wrong, you are whipping them into shape. Because remember, since they've attached themselves to you, they ain't got nowhere to go. They died before they had the understanding that they are higher heavens. So you're like the only source of light that they have, right? So when you rise, because they've been hanging around you and they just lucked up and picked a good one to hang around, right? And you, I'm sure during that time, they probably try and say little things to you or whatever to get you to do something that's not right. But if your spirit is stronger than those spirits that are hanging around you, eventually you're going to help raise them up as well, because you can't be around goodness all your life and continue doing bad. It's impossible. Impossible, right? Babe, he might be gone. Oh, I guess he not. He answered. Um, but it's impossible to continue doing bad. Just like the scriptures say, you become. I mean, I'm just summing it up. You become like those whom you hang around, right? So you got to be careful of the company you keep. Listen, verse 20. When a mortal dieth, and he had dominion over his Druha, meaning that he was able, in all his goodness and his knowledge and walking in faith, it gives him dominion over that spirit that's trying to constantly take over his life. When a mortal dieth, and he had dominion over his Druha, not only his spirit will rise to the first resurrection, but his Druhas also, whereupon they are all delivered into light. When a mortal dieth, and his Druhas had dominion over him. Listen, this is where my spirit really started to get shooketh deep down in my shana. Now listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. That's why I was like, holy crap. I better, when I say I'm a fast, I better not be having a, you know how you go jumping a double dutch rope, like, okay. Sometimes I find myself doing that when I'm supposed to be fasting, right? It's like, okay, so day one, I'm starting my fast, like right now, I'm gonna do it. Then you know what? Every time I say I'm a fast, something happens. Like I begin to test it. Anytime I say I'm a fast, some of my favorite stuff start coming up. I remember I started fasting while I was in the military, right? Or when you go to work, like my sister, she said the same thing. She said, girl, anytime I set myself to fast, somebody treats with Krispy Kreme. Like there's a big box of this is for everybody today. Krispy Kreme, my treat, is sitting on the table. Right now, none of them people I work with know that I said I was gonna start fasting as of today, right? And I brought my water with me to work. They didn't know that. She said there has got to be something else at play here. Every time, it never seems to fail, right? When you say you're going to fast, an opportunity comes up for you to choose not to fast that day. Let's see how strong you are, right? I kid you not. And I'm like, well, shoot. If food can beat me, I'm in trouble. I'm in some trouble, right? So listen, this is where I start to get shooketh deep down in my shana yesterday. I was like, Pam, you better pull this together. Listen, when a mortal dieth and his Druhas had dominion over him, then his spirit becometh a Druge also, and he becometh one with them, fastening on whomsoever cometh in the way. But if it be in a house, and no mortal cometh upon him whom they can fasten, then they remain in that house. And here they may remain a year, or 10 years, or 100 years in darkness, knowing nothing, doing nothing, until other angels come and deliver them, which is often no easy matter, requiring bodily force to carry them away. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I talk about fasting, but it is the hardest thing to really to do. It really is. I talk about it like it's easy. And some days I'm good. I really am. But some days I probably just need to be locked away, because if I can get past them 3 days, here's the thing. I've done it before. I've done a 40-day fast. But remember yesterday, look, when I'm talking now, I'm talking right to myself, girl, get this together. You should have been done with this 40-day fast. You keep starting over every single day. I'm like, I know. I'm going to do this. And I'll go good for a couple hours. Then it's time to cook dinner. But listen, let me tell you, I realized what it was. Remember yesterday when I told y'all, the first time, like when we was talking about people, they get into a good church service or whatever, they could be a sinner coming off the street and they get carried away by their emotions, and the emotions lead them, and they stick with it and they say they don't do any kind of sinning for like a couple weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But then after the excitement of whatever it was that just happened, when it was caught up in their emotions, when that wears off, that honeymoon phase wears off, now it's all of you, straight you, that's left that has to make the decision. You were intoxicated to make a decision and do something, and it was like not that you were being forced, but you were persuaded in a way where you were not in your right mind, and you did it, right? So when I first did my 40-day fast, because this was the first time I actually attempted to do a 40-day fast. All my other little fasts have been like shorter, right? But what I had did, I had come across, because I had really been feeling I need to do a longer fast, right? So I started watching people, and I just was looking at their result videos. I'm like, oh snap, so that I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And then I got super hype about it, and I did it without a problem, right? I did it without a problem. It was, I ain't gonna say it was a breeze, but it was a breeze compared to starting one over now, right? And once you get past them first 3 days, you're golden. You're golden. If you could just get past them first 3 days, it's like going to, I've never been to a detox or anything like that. But from what I understand, it's like getting through them first days of detox, that's the biggest thing, because in your system, all this stuff is coming up. If you've been constantly feeding yourself, like drugs or whatever, at the time you drug yourself, them same chemicals in your body start happening, getting your body ready to receive this. Same thing with food. It's the ghrelin. It's the ghrelin that causes you to be hungry, right? So if you eat every day 4 to 6 times a day, your body is calculating this, and your body is a time clock itself. So what happens is the ghrelin gets to going. If you eat at 9 a.m. every day, the ghrelin gets going about maybe like an hour, maybe 30, 40 minutes or so before you actually get ready to eat, right? It's preparing your body to receive this food that you normally eat every single day at this time. And then that's what a hunger pain start coming. It's not true hunger. Your body is just a process that your body does. It gets the acids and stuff flowing in your stomach to break down this food. And that's what causes that growling and stuff, right? It's called ghrelin. When you can turn, it takes 3 days of fasting with straight water, or like coconut water. Well, yeah, coconut water, but with coconut water, it may take a little bit longer, right? Or you can dry fast. You can it'll happen a lot faster if you dry fast, if you're able to make it 3 days. Dry fasting, up until this point, I made it 2.5 days, right? But if you're just drinking water, even if it's structured water like the alkaline 88 water, it takes 3 days to cut the ghrelin off in your gut. Them are some of the hardest 3 days ever, especially if food is your thing, right? You gotta deal with the mind. You gotta deal, well, first of all, before the mind even kick in, you gotta deal with your gut and this repetitive motion that you're in a habit of doing. You gotta deal with yourself and all of this stuff when you go to the fast. So all of this stuff is happening all over again. It's like I did it before. Why am I having such a hard time now? It's like my body, I can say my body, but it's my mind. It's like in rebellion, because sometimes when you eat, you find out you're not even really hungry for real. Like you got to deal with this. Your mind say, okay, why do I eat? Do I just eat unconsciously? You got to deal with all these things about yourself. Yeah, you can drink unsweetened tea as well. You know what? That's something I haven't tried this time, but that's that's something that I did use that helped me get, I didn't think about that. You know what?
Mom.
I didn't think about that.
Mom.
Yes.
Where's my laptop charger?
I don't know. If it was plugged in there, somebody removed it. Y'all, we at 57 minutes and I ain't got through this first chapter. Oh my gosh. We're gonna read another chapter. But listen, but I realized at this point, I'm not on like this whole emotional high with the fast, because I did the 40-day fast, and it was a bunch of other people that was doing it with me, and it's like you had the support, which makes it easier. But all the time you may not have support of everybody else, right? And you're gonna have to learn how to do things if nobody else is there to root you on. That's the beauty about our Creator. Even if nobody else is there, would we still do it? Like, do we really love him the way we say that we love him when we're by ourselves? And that's what I realized what it is with fasting. And I got to deal with my own self, my mental thoughts, and my relationship with food. Is it unhealthy? Why are you doing this? Right? We really should be feeding our body, not to just sustain it, but make sure it's in optimal health. And granted, food is a big thing all around the world. It really is. And shucks, great friendships are made around the table, going out to eat. Like all of this stuff you got to deal with, right? So it really makes me look at my relationship with food, my own mental thoughts, what drives me to eat. Like, it's just all of this stuff. You got to sit and really think about it and really dissect it. And then yesterday, like I said, education is what's going to get you through, right? It brings us right back to the point, right? We got to be educated, because going through the course of the paths of light, the school of light, the Creator wants us to be educated on everything so we can understand why these things are happening. Whether you demonic possession, you ain't going to go hide under the covers because the boogeyman. No, my G. First of all, it's a human who's lost their body. Education removes all the spookiness and all of the, oh my God, why I can't do this. It helps you remove all of that, and you can like literally scientifically be able to dissect stuff and get stuff done. Right. And so I'm just like, and fast. And I talk about it all the time, but it is my greatest struggle, y'all. I kid you not. It is my greatest struggle. Can't you tell? Can't you look? Y'all gonna know I didn't get it down. Like when my face starts slimming up, like literally, I kid you not, for the last year, I have been struggling to get back to this 40-day fast. I do good for like the first day. Boom. Got the first day down, we good. And the second day is the hardest. It's like drug withdrawal. Like I said, I ain't never been through drug withdrawal, but watching movies or whatever. Yeah, meditation, it helps sometimes. But when the ghrelin is off the chain, it's like, oh my gosh. And that's the part, like, because I'd be good, take my mind off of it, get out the house, go walk. And what it is, you have to just get through like 2 hours, because the ghrelin cycle, it comes in like 2 hour waves. And you're hungry, you think you're starving for 2 straight hours until that ghrelin cycle passes, because it goes. If you're eating, it'll go, and the acids are flowing until it breaks down the food, then it died down. Then the ghrelin starts again at your next feeding period time, right? So what it is, I have to prepare myself. I should know this by now. Knowing it and doing it is two different things. It really is. It really is. But I promise you, before 2022 is out, I'm going to have this thing down packed, y'all. I promise y'all I am. Look. So, but yeah, that's why when I said verse 21, the hair like stood up on my skin. I'm like, oh my gosh, food. I'm not gonna let food beat me, and y'all's not gonna take over my soul. Absolutely not. Okay, y'all. We at an hour and 1 minute. Let's finish this. I'm gonna read the next chapter too. If y'all gotta go to work. Go ahead and get out of here. Remember, this is recorded. Look. Okay, let's go back. Verse 21. When a mortal dieth, and his Druhas had dominion over him, then his spirit become a Druj also, and he becometh one with them, fastening on whomsoever cometh in the way. But if it be in a house, and no mortal cometh, upon whom they can fasten, then they remain in that house. And here they may remain a year, or 10 years, or 100 years in darkness, knowing nothing, doing nothing, until other angels come and deliver them, which is often no easy matter, requiring bodily force to carry them away. Verse 22. Jehovah gave certain signs unto both angels and mortals, whereby it shall be known both on earth and in heaven, which is master over the other, a mortal or his Druhas, and consequently such matter determineth to what place the spirit of a man will most readily fall after death. I'm like, oh, Father, help me. I almost fell out the chair. Look, I'm going to read this again. Look. Well, when I tell y'all, after I got done reading this and we got out there to the pool, I'm sitting there like my mind was completely just like thinking about this. I'm like, Pam, girl, you better get this together. Look, 22, I'm going to read it again. Page 434 at the top. Jehovah gave certain signs unto both angels and mortals, whereby it shall be known both on earth and in heaven, which is master over the other, a mortal or his Druhas, and consequently such matter determineth to what place the spirit of a man will most readily fall after death, right? So if you had trouble, you didn't get past all these things that was weighing you down, you gonna be in hara, my G. You are gonna be one of the ones that have to be delivered. But if you were able to master your flesh, all the Druhas that hang around you will also be lifted to light, and y'all all gonna graduate together. Bruh. Verse 23, listen to this. If the mortal cannot control his habit for intoxication or gluttony or avarice or debauchery or laziness or lying or hypocrisy, preaching what he practiceth not, or sexual indulgence or vengeance or anger or tattling mischievously, then is he indeed a victim in the hands of Druhas, and at the time of his death he becometh one with them. Can y'all see why I was in such a daze yesterday. I'm like, I'm like, I'm like a coach standing outside of myself. Get this together, girl. Listen, I'm gonna read it one more time, just in case you just came in. Verse 23, page 434. If the mortal cannot control his habit for intoxication or gluttony or avarice or debauchery or laziness or lying or hypocrisy, preaching what he practices not, nor sexual indulgence, or vengeance, or anger, or tattling mischievously, then is he indeed a victim in the hands of Druhas, and at the time of his death he becometh one with them. For if he have not power to rule in such matters while he is in the mortal world, he will be no stronger by the loss of his corporal body. Oh, Father, help us all. If the mortal, on the other hand, shall have risen to control himself over these habits and desires, then will he be indeed, at the time of death, already entered into the first resurrection. And the Druhas, if he have any, will be delivered also. That's where we all better be found at. Gang, gang. Create a gang, gang. We had all better be here. I'm going to read that again since I read the other one again. I'm going to read it again. For if he have not power to rule in such matters while he is in the mortal world, he will be no stronger by the loss of his corporal body. If the mortal, on the other hand, shall have risen to control himself over these habits and desires, then will he be indeed, at the time of death, already entered into the first resurrection. And the Druhas, if he have any, will be delivered also. And not the words and professions of either mortals or Druhas, nor their prayers, nor religious rites and ceremonies are of any value unto them, but by the works and behavior of mortals are all things known and proven. Oh, that I love that tab. The tablet said, when we can discipline ourselves in this realm, then heavenly food will be appreciated by us. Oh my gosh, that is a profound statement. Yes. Oh my gosh. Look, verse 27. Tootie, what are you looking for?
Looking for glue.
There's no glue in there. I can tell you that now. You're gonna have to look in Josh's school box. Verse 27. So that Jehovah's high raised gods, but need pass over a corporal city once to determine whether it be in resurrection or declination. Declension. Let me read it again. Verse 27. Let me go to 26. It goes together. Verse 26. And not the words and professions of either mortals or Druhas, nor their prayers, nor religious rites and ceremonies are of any value unto them, but by the works and behavior of mortals are all things known and proven. So that Jehovah's high raised gods but need pass over a corporal city once to determine whether it be in resurrection or declension. And such gods put their angel laborers to work, sorting them as a mortal would his cattle. And if a city be badly cast in Druhas, dragging mortals down to destruction spiritually, then the angels inspire such mortals as they are in the way of resurrection to move out of the city. And after that, they can cast the city in fire and burn it down. That's good, Elijah. Thank you. Look, it's about the mind. Once you train yourself to focus on that goal, the matter, it's all about the mind. Once you train yourself to focus on that goal, the matter that is what? Y'all got to use commas and periods. Hold on.
Mom,
Yes, baby.
you gotta go to the store.
Yeah, a little bit later. Okay, I know what you're saying. Hold on, but I'm just reading it wrong. It's all about the mind. Once you train yourself to focus on that goal or the matter that is, I'm just add a word, that is at hand, the body will also follow. Okay, yeah, once you train your mind to focus on that goal, the body will follow. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't screw your comment all up, Elijah. I'm sorry, bro. Forgive me. Vinette said, this lesson is right on time. I'm fasting for the first time. I have 2 more days. Says you can do it. You can do it. Like Elijah said, focus on the goal, right? And your body gonna follow. We both taking that advice. I'm doing a juice fast because this is my first time. Yeah. Poof. Listen. Verse 28. And if a city be badly cast in Juhaz, Bella, quit going through all the drawers. What are you looking for? No, that is a cake cream piper. Put that down. You ain't looking for that. No.
Mom,
What?
next time, Mom, look, I think we'll to the store. I want to come, but I want to.
Thank you.
Mom, but I want to come, but I want to get some birthday cake and frosting.
No, nobody's birthday is soon. No, Josiah's is. It's coming up, but no, not today. Listen. Okay, go on through that, girl. All right, listen. Verse 28, page 434. And if a city be badly cast in Juhaz, dragging mortals down to destruction spiritually, then the angels inspire such mortals as are in the way of resurrection to move out of the city. And after that, they cast the city in fire and burn it down. And whilst it is burning, and the Juhaz distracted with the show, the angels of power come upon them and carry them off, hundreds of millions of them, and the mortals are thus cleared of them that would have bound them in darkness after death. In this matter, the infidel curseth Jehovah because the houses are burned, for he judgeth matters by the things his soul was set upon. I read that again. In this matter, the infidel curseth Jehovah because the houses are burnt, for he judgeth matters by the things his soul was set upon. He saith, what a foolish God, how wicked to burn a city. For he understandeth not that all things are Jehovah's, and that his gods under him work not for man's earthly aggrandizement, which is the curse of his spirit, but they work for his spiritual resurrection in their own way, according to the Father's light in them, to accomplish the resurrection of the Druhas dwelling with mortals on earth, had Leka, son of Jehovah, appointed. Let me read that again to accomplish the resurrection of the Druhas dwelling with mortals on the earth, had Leka, son of Jehovah, appointed Yesanitis with his 12 generals, very gods in wisdom and power, each one to a certain division of the earth. Now let's read chapter 22 and then we'll pause because I think this is a chapter where it goes more into what he just said, right? On why he yes, it is. Listen, you know how y'all, your Torah is burnt and why they keep burning things. Now I understand. I was like, you know what? It's good that they burnt the Torah. Now, at least from my understanding, I completely get it why they kept burning and burning. From our standpoint, look, you can understand. Listen to this. Listen. This is so good. Chapter 22, page 435. Jehovah spake to Leka, saying, these are my ways, reveal thou me unto them. They that know me not shall be made to know me. My labors shall rise up before them, and their understanding shall be opened. Then they shall know what I mean when I say, I destroy or I will build up. I have heard man in his vanity that judgeth me. His eyes are on the earth only, and in houses and riches. Because I take them away from him, he complaineth against me. I gave man an example in his own child that delighteth in sweets and idleness and vain pleasures. Man taketh these from his child, saying, behold, they are not good for thee. save in great temperance. Now, keep remembering this little example that he gave us, all of us that have children, or at least babysitting nieces and nephews, or friends' kids, or you might not have any children, or be a single child, no family member, but you might be a teacher, right? Listen, this made all the world of sense to me about the Torah constantly being burnt, and while the Creator allowed just different things to be burnt. Listen. I'm gonna read through again. I'm gonna keep going. I gave man an example in his own child that delighteth in sweets and idleness and vain pleasures. Man taketh these from his child, saying, behold, they are not good for thee, save in great temperance. Wherein have I injured thee, O man? Wherein destroyed I aught that contributed to thy spirit? Wherein have I suffered destruction to come upon thee, whilst thou followest my commandments? Why shalt thou complain? Why shalt thou complain because I laid great cities in ashes? Sawest thou the millions of Druhas that were holding down in darkness by thy evil habits? I am not in anger, nor pull I down, nor burn I up any place in a passion, right? Some people call the creator or angry God. He do think he always angry or whatever, right? He said, I don't do anything in a passion. He said, I'm looking past all of that. And y'all, all of this stuff y'all had problems with, if I hadn't burned the city down, y'all would have been in the same state had you passed like that. So the only way to save you was to burn the city down, to release the Druhas that are tormenting y'all. Listen to this. Listen. Verse 4. Wherein have I injured thee, O man? Wherein destroyed I aught that contributed to thy spirit? Wherein have I suffered destruction to come upon thee, whilst thou followest my commandments? Why shalt thou complain because I laid great cities in ashes? Sawest thou the millions of Druhas that were holding down in darkness by thy evil habits? I am not in anger, nor pull I down, nor burn I up any place in a passion. As thou goest forth to destroy a row of houses, to stay a great conflagration, shall the people murmur? For thy hand is stretched forth to do a good work for the whole city. My heavens are magnified cities, and when a mortal wing offendeth, behold, I clip it short. They are all mine, and none can question my authority with mine own, which I willed for the resurrection of the whole. Yes, babe. Yes, I'm about to be done. Just like when you have fruit trees or you're planting stuff, right? You got flowers and you see a branch is withered. If you learn a little bit about it, if you leave that dead branch on the plant, it's going to continue sucking nutrients from the good plants and from the root, which is going to eventually, if you leave it there, it's going to cause everything else to wilt. Just like if you leave a bad apple within a good bunch, it's going to start spreading that disease to the other apples, right? And one apple spoils the bunch. So whenever you see wilted leaves or branches on your plant in your garden, go snip it off. Stop the nutrients from flowing there because it's already dead. Clip it, prune it for the life of the entire plant. I'm like, yo, this makes so much sense. Look, I'm gonna go back to 5. I am not in anger, nor pull I down, nor burn up I any place in a passion. As thou goest forth to destroy a row of houses, to stay a great conflagration, shall the people murmur? For thy hand is stretched forth to do a good work for the whole city. My heavens are magnified cities, and when a mortal wing offendeth, behold, I clip it short. They are all mine, and none can question my authority with mine own, which I willed for the resurrection of the whole. Thou hast wept because of the destruction of the books of great learning of the ancients, but thou knowest not thine own works. Saw I not, O man, that thou wouldest never wean thyself from the doctrines of the dark ages if the books of great learning were not destroyed? In all ages, the world, thou hast been bound to the ancients. Thou art forever searching backward for wisdom, and to the angels of the dead who pretend to be ancients. I behold the latter, and that they are Druhas. I send wise angels down to them to deliver them out of darkness, and they come and bear the Juhas away from thee for thine own good and theirs. My wise angels suffer mortals to burn up the books of the ancients, for I command them to make thee open thine understanding to the living present. Now that'll preach. No, now that'll teach. Listen, let me just read all that again. Verse 7. Thou hast wept because of the destruction of the books of great learning of the ancients, but thou knowest not thine own words. Saw I not, O man, that thou wouldest never wean thyself from the doctrines of the dark ages, if the books of great learning were not destroyed? In all ages of the world, thou hast been bound to the ancients. Thou art forever searching backward for wisdom, and to the angels of the dead who pretend to be ancients. I behold the latter, and that they are Druhas. I send wise angels down to them to deliver them out of darkness, and they come and bear the Druhas away from thee for thine own good and theirs. My wise angels suffer mortals to burn up the books of the ancients, for I command them to make thee open thine understanding to the living present. Jehovah spake to at Yesonitus, and through him to the 12 gods of deliverance, saying, Go forth, my son, in wisdom and power. Thy labor requireth great strength and stratagems. For thou shalt find the Druhas fast bound to mortals and to mortal habitations, houses. Stop making all that noise. As a drowning man clingeth to a log. Just wait till I'm done. Wait till I'm done. It's making too much noise. What's in that cup? Hold on, y'all. Why was about to pour that out? Pour it out. Well, pour it out. Just pour it all out. Bring it back. Pick those up off the floor, please. Okay. I'll start at the beginning of verse 11. Go forth, my son, in wisdom and power. Thy labor requireth great strength and stratagems, for thou shalt find the Druhas fast bound to mortals and to mortal habitations, houses. As a drowning man clingeth to a log, so cling the Druhas to mortals. As a delirious man, mad with drunkenness, flieth in fear from his best friends. Thank you. As a drowning man clingeth to a log, so cling the Druhas to mortals. As a delirious man, mad with drunkenness, flieth in fear from his best friends, so will the Druhas fly from thee, and thy host who shall attempt to deliver them. We almost done, y'all. It's we're on verse 12. It's 56 verses, but they're fast 56 verses. Listen, verse 12. They will inspire their mortals to dread and innovation of the ancient doctrines. Yeah. They will inspire their mortals to dread and innovation of the ancient mortals. Do not cut on anything in there. Just leave it just like that. Yea, the twain, not knowing it, will bind themselves together with great tenacity. But thou shalt deliver them apart, nevertheless, by stratagem or persuasion, or with a strong hand. And when thou hast them separate, thou shalt surround the Druhas with flames of fire, and carry them off to the boats, which are bulwarked with fire. And thou shalt deliver them in the places, my son, Eusemis hath already prepared for them. Bella, don't play with me. If you turn it on, I'm going to turn it off, and you won't watch it for the rest of the day. No, I don't care that it's cut down. I said don't. Verse 14. Thou shalt not only deliver the Druhas, but cause mortals to hate them. Mortal kings, listen to this. And we see a lot of movies like this. Verse 15, mortal kings shall issue edicts against magicians and prophets and seers and priests, and the consultation of spirits shall come to an end. And man on earth shall turn to his own soul, which is my light within him, and he shall cultivate it and learn to think for himself. Verse 16, at Yasonitus prepared a record to give to mortals, and it was by inspiration so given. And the nature of the record was to teach mortals to be guarded against Juhas and to know who was afflicted with them. This then that followeth is said record, even as it standeth to this day in the libraries of heaven, to wit, the man that saith, I pity my neighbors, they are surrounded with Juhas. The man that saith, fools only believe in obsession. The man that saith, there is no all person. The man that saith, my way is wisdom, thine is wicked. The man that saith, let no one dictate to me. I will have nothing but liberty to the uttermost. The man that saith, as a as the priest thinketh, so do I. The man that saith, thou hadst my knowledge. The man that saith, the ancients were wiser than we. The man that saith, the ancients were fools. The man that saith, whoso seeth not as I do is a heathen. The man that saith, whoso worship not my God is wicked. The man that saith, wisdom is book learning. The man that saith, there is no wisdom in books. The man that saith, my book is sacred, it containeth the sum of all revelation and inspiration. The man that saith, there is no inspiration, nor words thereof. The followers of the ancients only. He who will have nothing to do with the ancients. It looked like you can't win for losing. Either you is or you ain't. Look, the followers of the ancients only. He who will have nothing to do with the ancients. He who ignoreth rites and ceremonies and prayers. He who dependeth on rites and ceremonies and prayers. He who denieth the ever present person. Whoso followeth the counsel of angels or men. Whoso will not learn from the counsel of angels, of men and angels. Whoso filleth prayers and confessions to be good for others, but not necessary for himself. Ooh, was this the one you was talking about? Look, who was it that said that? Was this the verse you was talking about? Verse 40, whoso filleth prayers and confessions to be good for others, but not necessary for himself. I think you may have just summed it up. You said a person should pray for himself. Okay. Verse 40, whoso filleth prayers and confessions be good for others, but not necessary for himself. Or saith, I will lead and supervise, be thou my servant. Or saith, behold my rights, or behold my earnings, or behold my possessions. Or talketh of himself and his experiences, or tattleth of others, or judges his brother, or criticizeth him. The self-righteous who saith, behold me, I am holy, or who desireth not new light, or saith, the old is good enough. Whoso laboreth for himself only, whoso laboreth not for others in his wisdom and strength, that seeketh his own ease, that considereth not others' welfare more than his own. The hypocrite preaching one way and practicing another, that speaketh not openly his doctrines, lest his words profit not his earthly means and associations. And the last verse is verse 56. At Yesonitus said, for these are all as much under the bondage of Druhas as is the drunkard or harlot or murderer, and after death their spirits float into the same hada of darkness. Y'all hear what it's just saying? Those that's arguing over the rights, ceremonies. This is how you do it. No, you don't do them no more. This is how you do it. We supposed to keep to this. All this. He said, this is how you can recognize all of them who are under the inspiration of Drew Hobbs, right? Listen, by learning all of this, it should cause us to like, wait a minute, hold on, let's sit back and think about this for a second, right? Just like it said in verse 15, mortal kings shall issue edicts against magicians and prophets and seers and priests, and the consultation of spirits shall come to an end, and man on the earth shall turn to his own soul, which is my light within him, and he shall cultivate it and learn to think for himself. So learning all of this should cause us to just stop. Wait a minute. Okay, what's going on? We ain't supposed to do this and we ain't supposed to do that. Or you didn't outlaw this and you didn't outlaw that. Hold on. Father, I don't know what they got going on out here, but I need your help. Right? It should cause us to stop and have us to think for ourselves as we start going through all of this, right? Because it seemed like all these people, they do all this stuff other than learning how to seek the Father for themselves and thinking for themselves. It looked like they all end up in Hada. Right. Work out your own soul salvation. This is so good. Verse 56 again. At Yesonitus said, for these are all as much under the bondage of Druhas as is the drunkard or harlot or murderer. And after death, their spirits float into the same hada of darkness. So don't feel more holier than thou. You may not be a drunkard. You may not be a harlot. You may not be a murderer. But if you're doing any of these other things that falls in line, you will find yourself the same place. They will be like, what's up, my G? I said, you made it? You thought you was going to beat us? No, y'all all in hada together, my G, until y'all all are rescued. We don't want to find ourselves there, right? So let's learn how to not depend on superstitions and all this other stuff. Just learn how to communicate with the Father and learn how to think for ourselves and ask questions, right? Even if people decide they want to ridicule us, tell us we didn't join the cult. No, my G, quite the contrary. We're breaking out of cults. We're learning how to think for ourselves and we're asking questions in hopes you would start asking questions too. Yeah, don't that seem a little foolish that they would have y'all doing that? You ain't never thought about that? You look like an idiot. Don't do that. Yeah. I don't care that he did it. Your pastor did say y'all should be doing this. You know what? They don't sit right down in my shana not too good. So I'm gonna keep asking questions. All right, beautiful people. That's it for today. This was good. Page 437. All right, y'all. So we had an hour and 32 minutes. It is Tuesday, August the 9th, 2022, day 181 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1199. We read pages 432 to pages 437 in Oahspe, Book of Leka, Son of Jehovah. All right. What I think I'll do, I think I'll copy and paste. I don't know. That might be a copyright infringement. I don't know. Maybe I won't. I was about to say if I could copy and paste some of those instances that I told you about in here. I don't know. I might not. It probably will be a copyright infringement. But maybe I'll take a picture and give the reference. I don't know. I'll probably just take a picture of it so you can read it and see. And of course I put the reference, all that stuff, giving proper credit. All right, y'all. But with that being said, that's it. Right? Think about your life. Consider your own ways, right? Just make sure we all are working out our own soul salvation. Beautiful people. Why you keep saying burger recipe? Oh, listen. Also, when I was talking about the burger yesterday, my husband, burger. I get it. Okay, I shared it. I'm like, what is she talking about? Burger recipe. Not realize you was talking to me. Okay. All right, y'all. Look, that's it. Look, a lot of the stuff I go to darn it, Tabitha Brown. Some of her recipes be good. I get some of the recipes that I get, like I just kind of mix stuff up. I pull different plant-based things and I just mix and match stuff. So sometimes I don't follow recipes precisely like they give them because we got to season it to our taste or whatever. But I'll show you what I did. I'll show you what I did. All right, beautiful people. That is it. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all back here tomorrow. And Father, your wisdom is unmatched. All right, y'all. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Bless up. Big bye. No. Don't start. Okay. In this.
I pulled out some burgers.
Back up.
I said it first.
Girl, end it. Go watch what you're doing. Yep.
Mama.